Joe Biden sent 54 emails to Hunter Biden's business associates. More of that no evidence that we keep hearing about. NBC News has the story. They got wind of this from records that were released from Congress. They say that here, House Republicans show Joe Biden repeatedly emailed Hunter's business associate in 2014 when he was vice president. How about that? Saying that these emails were exchanged with his son Hunter and his associate 54 times, and some of the messages, oh no, were sent around the time that the elder Biden, daddy, was traveling to Ukraine and his son was working for Burisma. Oh man, that's crazy. So according to records that were just released, now a White House spokesperson declined to comment, but pointed to statements that Eric Sherwin worked as Joe's financial advisor and helped him prepare his tax returns. But Sherwin did not return requests for comments. So the records released describe the dates of the emails and who exchanged them, but did not include the messages themselves. NBC has not reviewed the contents of the emails. Now, all told, Vice President Biden emailed Sherwin 35 times before and after his 2014 trips. 5 emails were exchanged just prior to the trip by Vice President Biden to Ukraine, and 27 emails were sent on a second trip to Ukraine by Biden. So why is he emailing his accountant when he's flying back and forth to Ukraine? That's weird. Now, the bulk of the communication occurred in the lead up to and following an agreement for Hunty to serve on the board of Ukrainian natural gas company called Burisma. Oh, earlier this year, Raskin said in a news release that Sherwin told the Congress that the elder Biden was not involved in the business of his son or any of his relatives, right? Raskin said, he's not involved at all. Well, what do you have 54 emails for? Raskin said Sherwin stated, the quote, that he was not aware of any involvement by Biden in the financial conduct of the presidential's relatives, much less any transactions that ended up in the bank account. Now, the email disclosures were part of a law enforcement record released by House Republicans, came after testimony from whistleblower Joseph Ziegler. This month, Ziegler provided the documents to the House Ways and Means Committee, gave them a sworn affidavit, and the committee has also heard testimony from whistleblower Gary Shapley, which went over to Jason Smith. Ziegler told Congress that there were multiple emails found with Hunter Biden and his business associates, but the investigative team was unaware at that time that VP Joe used an alias. Oh, those secret alias emails from Joe Biden. And so 54 of those, my friends, the Pandora's box continues to be opened. And so that is what is taking place there. Now, we know that that was being covered up by the DOJ. Those whistleblowers constantly had problems with people like Lesley Wolf. Lesley Wolf was the woman who allegedly warned Hunter's defense lawyers that the government was going to go search his storage facility, and then Hunter was able to get the storage facility cleared out. Don't know if there were classified documents in there or what, but Lesley Wolf is no longer with the DOJ. Now, she was there, in my opinion, covering up for all sorts of criminality because she hates Trump. But we know from Jake Gibson that back on December 14th, she is leaving. Lesley Wolf, the assistant U.S. attorney who was central to the whistleblower claims, is no longer with the DOJ, according to a source familiar with the situation. She is gone, right? And isn't that convenient? And she was ordered to come to Congress as part of a deposition. She showed up. She's not above the law like Hunter is. He can just kind of do whatever he wants, not go to congressional subpoenas. But Lesley Wolf did show up at a congressional subpoena, but didn't answer much. Okay, Hunter could have done this. Here, she went and refused to explain an order to remove Joe Biden from the search warrant. Remember, she also did not allow his name to appear. So former assistant U.S. attorney Lesley Wolf showed up in Congress and testified before the House Judiciary Committee back on December 14th. Looks like the same day we learned that she was no longer with the agency. She declined to discuss an email. She sent an email in August of 2020, okay? That's just a couple months before the election. Lesley Wolf at the DOJ sent an email to FBI agent Joshua Wilson. She said, take Joe Biden's name off of a draft search warrant during the Hunter Biden investigation. We don't want his name in there. Now, this is an email chain, somebody asked her, between you and the FBI special agent Joshua Wilson, isn't it? In the last sentence of the email, Lesley, you state, it says, quote, there should be nothing about the political figure 1 in here. Do you see where you wrote that? She's like, yeah. Can you tell us who political figure 1 is? Wolf was asked. She says, well, looking at page 2 of the document, it would be, well, who's described as former Vice President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., now President Biden, says Wolf. And can you tell us why you wrote there should be nothing about political figure 1 in here? And she said, well, so I'm not able to answer questions about this particular search warrant or this particular draft. She proceeded to give a lengthy explanation about how drafting search warrant works and the requirements to get one, and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, so in this instance, you stand by your statement. There should be nothing about political figure one in here. She said, I'm not able to speak about this particular warrant. But she said, but no, political bias, no, it did not play a role in her decision to remove him. And she said, I already told you that in my opening statement. And they said, what? Okay, but in your opening statement, and I think you indicated that none of these decisions were made for political reasons. Is that fair? She said, yeah, that's in my opening statement. And so to the extent that you didn't ask the agents to take out political figure one, there was no political motivation in requesting that. So I refer back to my opening statement. I said at no time there was politics playing a role in these decisions. Now, she recently left after the whistleblowers came out and explained this to her, said that you are a partisan operator. What they have done now is included the email. The email says, from Lesley Wolf to Joshua Wilson. She said, here, as a priority, someone needs to redraft attachment B. I'm not sure what this is cut and pasted from, but other than the attribution, location, and identity stuff at the end, none of it is appropriate and within the scope of the warrant. Please focus on FARA evidence only. There should be nothing about political figure one in here. Isn't that nice, Lesley? We don't want anything to go after Joe. And said when they testified, we had the testimony, Gary Shapley, he explained how Wolf and the DOJ were stonewalling everybody, slow walking the process, indicating that nothing was going to get approved, and Joe Biden used email aliases to communicate and do business. Now we know the rest of the story here, and she is no longer there, but she showed up and didn't say much. And so there was some reaction to this, like, oh, well, okay, Congress kind of dropped another one. This is how Fox made it sound, and we get some reaction from this gentleman who is explaining that, no, I think it actually confirms that she is running, right? It's kind of like fleeing a sinking ship.
Noah Rothman's here, senior writer, National Review Magazine. Good morning to you. So just listening to that, right? Jordan says they shot a bunch of blanks. Ivy says it was a waste of time. So both are concluding that it was essentially a waste of time, but for different reasons. How do you see it?
It doesn't seem like a waste of time from my perspective. Ms. Wolf seems to be exposed to a certain degree. We don't know how much. But the whistleblowers who alleged that Hunter Biden had defrauded the government and that there was a certain amount of exposure that he should face, that he was not in a conspicuous fashion, that proved to be true. We've seen now these charges that are coming out in California against Hunter Biden probably wouldn't have happened in the absence of that testimony. So there's a certain amount of credibility that Mr. Shapley has, and I would defer to him. Just Hunter Biden is attempting to help his father, who's facing a congressional investigation for obstructing Congress, by refusing to abide by a congressional subpoena. You're not helping Hunter. You're making things a little bit worse. And Hunter Biden is facing charges now that are very easy to convict on. This is a pretty open and shut case. There are no extenuating circumstances that say, well, you know, I should have paid back $1.4 million in taxes, instead spent it on fast cars, fancy clothes, women, and illicit narcotics.
Hookers.
That's the sort of thing that gets a conviction, which presents a profound political conundrum to his father.
Yeah, you've written about this. I want to read something from your piece that says this is going to put the president in a terrible position. He's going to be faced with a variety of horrible choices, you write, the least agonizing of which only involve the life or death of his political career. Biden is the one person in America with the power to spare his only surviving son the consequences of his actions. If it isn't already, the temptation to pull that trigger will be overwhelming, but the consequences of doing so would be disastrous.
Yeah, hopefully he does pardon him so we can see exactly what this family is all about, and there will be political repercussions for that. So we've got some reaction from Comer, from Tim Burchett and Chip Roy. Comer showed up and he was explaining what is happening in Congress. We're still wondering if they're going to hold Hunter in contempt or what this situation looks like, because he snubbed his nose at them, showed up, and then just left. Here is Comer explaining what's happening in Congress.
Well, I think everyone knows we're in what I call the deposition phase. We're doing depositions and transcribed interviews with between 25 and 30 people. Our latest one was this week. We went to Florida and had an interview with one of the trustees of AmeriCorps Health Financial's bankruptcy proceedings. And what we learned there was that the $600,000 that Jim Biden defrauded the AmeriCorps Health Company out of, a lot of that money came from other schemes which took money from senior citizens. But the ironic thing about that is $200,000 of that $600,000, that was 1/3, went directly to Joe Biden's bank account. There's no question about it. We traced the money. Jim Biden had around $2,000 in his personal checking account for several months. And one day he gets a $200,000 wire from AmeriCorps Health into his personal account. And that same day, the exact same day, he writes writes a check to Joe Biden for $200,000. So that's part of the money that we know Joe Biden has stuck in his pocket that he got directly from his family's shady influence peddling schemes. And this one as bad as anything because it took money from senior citizens and other vulnerable Americans.
A lot of tentacles on that, right? So let's just break it down for a second. So the $200,000 back to James, to the big guy Joe, what was that for? Do we know? It says loan repayment. I get it, but what was the loan for? Was there any certain, in essence, a real loan, and what was it for? Number one. And number two, I'm to understand that this money that went through AmeriCorps came from a senior citizens fund. It can't get much lower than that. You pretty confident about that?
100%. The bad thing about it is the $600,000 that went to Jim Biden, especially that last $200,000, that came at a time when the company was no doubt headed to bankruptcy.
Why does anyone send $600,000 to Jim Biden?
Well, he approached AmeriCorps Health when they were in financial trouble, but they hadn't filed bankruptcy yet. And he said, I am Joe Biden's brother. And because of my brother's contacts in the Middle East, I can help you get all the capital you need to get back on your feet. That is influence peddling 101. And that is how the Bidens operate.
Did he get that? Did AmeriCorps get that? Tell us.
Yeah, they thought, okay, he's a Biden. I mean, this is what the Bidens do. So they paid him $600,000. The funny thing is he wanted it in loans and have to report it to the IRS. All this loan business, you know, I am from a banking background. They don't have any loan documentation. We've shown emails from banks where they said they had no loan documentation. And the reason they're saying it's loans is you don't have to report it.
Loans and corruption from the Biden crime family. And this is Tim Burchett saying, you know, things are starting to pop off here. We're starting to see some momentum, and Pandora's box is looking like it is being opened. And Burchett is saying that he expects the Democrats to throw Biden to the wolves after the new year.
Cover up by this administration. They have not been forthcoming with anything, you know, and any investigation around the White House is suspect. Case in point, the bag of cocaine, when they had it narrowed down to 200 people that had come in that entrance.
How dare you, sir, imply even the implication that this had anything to do with Hunter? He is in recovery, okay?
Do what?
He is in recovery, my friend.
Yeah, well, he needs to be. Let me tell you, this thing just keeps getting deeper and deeper. And, you know, the Biden's numbers are dropping. The Democrats are scratching their head right now. They're in panic mode. They are looking for somebody to replace him. You're going to stop in the new year. You're already seeing it. They're going to stop defending him because they can't afford their numbers to drop either.
Pretty remarkable right now. We were looking at the numbers for Joe Biden. So last week, Pew had his approval rating at 33%. That, by the way, is below where Trump was after January 6th. Donald Trump's final approval rating, the day he left office, 34%. This week, he's at 34%. That is below where Jimmy Carter was right before he lost to Ronald Reagan. So the White House, their heads have got to be spinning with how bad these numbers are.
Man.
And Joe Biden doesn't really seem to be interested in doing anything to correct these bad numbers. But just back to Hunter. KJP was asked about Hunter earlier this week. Take a listen to her response.
Will the White House announce Hunter Biden's presence on Marine One moving forward?
That's something that we've never done. This is the family. The family gets to travel with the president, and that's been the case with every other president. And so it's not something that
But you have a manifest with everyone else on the list.
We would be doing moving forward.
Congressman, when are we going to drop this charade that Hunter is some precious little sweet baby boy like JFK Jr. or you think about the Obama girls when they were in the White House, or Chelsea Clinton, or any kid basically under 10 years old.
He's a kid.
That's been a first kid. Hunter's in his mid-50s. Yeah. He's not like a sweet little precious angel baby boy.
Obviously, this White House is checked out, and everybody around the president has. He's not cognizant of what's going on around him, or he would address some of these issues personally. This is not the Joe Biden from 20 years ago. It's not the Joe Biden from 2 years ago.
No, it's not.
And so this is just clearly an indication that they holding their cards. They get it. They know the American public's onto this game. There's $30 million that have flowed through this family that there's no record of them even paying any taxes on. And they're from foreign sources. Joe Biden repeatedly lied about it. KGP or whatever the heck her name is.
You got it.
I can't keep track of these initials. She's a lost ball in high weeds right now because she doesn't answer the questions. The national media doesn't push them on it. The American people have totally checked out on this White House. They're going to have to find somebody new, some out of California or somebody else. I don't know. But the country's in trouble, and this just can't continue. And they know it. They know it.
Hillary might be making a comeback. We'll have to see. But I think he makes an astute point here. I think there is an energy problem there. You can almost feel it. And even Kareen's just like, what do you want from me? Okay, like the border's the border. What do you want from me? Leave me the hell alone. Same with John Kirby. They just feel like they are low energy and basically have been defeated. So the question that I had is about contempt. Hunter gave everybody in Congress the middle finger. And the question is, are they going to do anything about it? I mean, my gosh, when Steve Bannon gave Liz Cheney the finger, they indicted him and they want him in prison now. So are the Republicans going to play the same game? Here's Chip Roy.
And second of all, if you don't answer questions, how do you get answers? It seems dodging questions seems politically motivated. Am I wrong here?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, look, what the truth is pretty simple. There's $15 to $24 million that we know has flowed from foreign sources and foreign countries, enemies, like China, into the Biden family. We know that, okay? And that's the evidence. We also know that the president lied about knowing about the business associations between Hunter and the individuals involved. And now we're seeing the obstruction, the third prong of this, where the DOJ is not allowing us to get to the truth. That's why the impeachment inquiry was so important just 2 weeks ago when we voted to do that. So we now have more powers. And now what you're seeing with Lesley Wolf is more of the same obstruction, more of the same refusal to answer the questions. They don't want to answer the questions because they know the truth. The fact is they were slow walking the investigation. When we wanted to look at Hunter Biden's tax returns in 2014 and 15, they let the statutes of limitation run. That means that they were engaging in obstructing justice of us trying to pursue the truth. So Jim Jordan and Jamie Comer are going to keep doing the good work, and we should hold Hunter Biden in contempt. He knows full well he didn't want to come forward and testify. He wants to come forward and plead the fifth. He can do that. But he shouldn't thumb his nose at the hearing. He should have come forward, and he should have answered questions in a deposition because he's got a lot of explaining to do.
His father has a lot of explaining to do. I mean, the
That's
left
right.
likes to say that there's no evidence that his father knew about his business dealing and possibly even profited from business dealings, despite the fact that there is a paper trail of millions of dollars being funneled to the Biden
That's right.
family. I'd like to hear from the president himself rather than hearing more about how he supports his son. It's great that he's a doting, loving father. It looks like there's a lot more here than that.
Well, and remember that whistleblowers, they tell us that Lesley Wolf was saying, oh, it was politically motivated in October of 2020 that the DOJ didn't want to get in and go pursue what we were looking into with Hunter's laptop. So we know that it was politically motivated, and DOJ is refusing to let that evidence come to light. The American people deserve to know the truth. This isn't political. This isn't retribution. This is about our country and foreign actors sending millions of dollars to influence the Vice President of the United States. He lied about it, and then he's obstructing us getting to the truth. But this shouldn't be a shiny object from us doing the work of the American people to secure the border and cut spending, but we should pursue the truth wherever it may lead.
Yeah, it's under there somewhere. Unfortunately, it's going to take longer because they're not being very transparent.
All right, we'll see if they ultimately go towards contempt or if anything escalates there. We'll see. There is still a lot of time left on the clock, but every day we seem like we get more news about more of the Pandora's box being opened, more materials coming out. 54 emails now that are apparently pseudonym emails from Joe Biden going over to Hunter's business associates all around the time of Ukraine. Very interesting. Why would he need to do that? Who is he sending emails to about Ukraine business with pseudonyms for? Very strange. But we're going to be here continuing to cover this, my friends. Thank you for joining us as we do. Thanks for inviting somebody to come over to our channel and join us when we go live. We'd love to hear from them and love to hear from you. And of course, we look forward to seeing you both back here on the next one.